Broad Street Review podcast is an extension of Broad Street Review, Philly's home for arts, culture, and conversation, an online arts and culture journal covering the greater Philadelphia area. I'm your host, Darnell Radford. Today on the podcast, Scott Greer drops in to talk about the toxic relationships on display in the Theater Exile Philadelphia premiere of The Motherfucker with the Hat by Stephen Adley Gurgis. Here is my interview with Scott Greer. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in the virtual studio with Scott Greer. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I don't know. Did we ever have a chat on a podcast, you and me?
I don't think so. I don't know.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It only took 12 seasons of Rep Radio and 6 seasons of Broad Street Review to have a chat.
Yeah. Well, it's been kind of weird the last couple of years, you know.
Yeah. You should know that I've been singing your praises for a long, long time. So even though we haven't chatted, the world knows.
Well, I appreciate that.
That you're a superstar. Yeah. So what have you been up to?
Well, so after the shutdown, I last November went to work at the Bruno Brothers Rittenhouse in their Center Island charcuterie prepared foods department, where I was for about 6 months. And then Jen and I developed a show over the summer that's sort of about empty nesters that turned into a thing called 2 Out of 3. And we did it as a part of 1812 season. We did 4 performances of it in November, which we taped and then streamed in December as a part of their season. And then in the meantime, while I was doing that, I was getting ready to open $1 Million Quartet at Delaware Theater Company, which closed right before Christmas. And now I'm in rehearsal for The Motherfucker with the Hat with Exile. And once we start previews, I start rehearsals for Man for All Seasons for the Lantern, and then that goes up in March and then closes in April, and then in May I start rehearsals for Into the Woods at the Arden. And so I went from having almost nothing to having a very busy season in the space of like 3 weeks in October.
Wow.
And all of this stuff like came together very late.
I was just about to say, so you haven't been doing anything for the past couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And Jen and I, we did sort of 2 showings of an early version of our 2-hander. I think it wasn't even called 2 Out of 3 then, but we did like a couple, like 2 performances of an outdoor concert in July at Delaware Theater Company, and then at a resort in Eaglesmere, PA, where we've been doing the last few years in the summer. We've gone up there and I did Ever Brilliant Thing there. She did Why I'm Scared of Dance. And so we just, we kind of, but in July, we were supposed to be outside and it rained. And Bud Martin said, well, okay. And it was very sort of, by the seat of our pants. And in July, the cases were falling really fast. And so we went inside and did it inside. It was the first time I'd been on stage since March of 2020, 15 months prior. And then, the first time like in a sort of, official theater setting, that was in November when we did it for 1812, those 4 performances. And so, it's gone from 0 to 60, which is a blessing. It's challenging certainly back to back and to overlap, but it beats slice and turkey.
Yes. I'm always glad to hear that artists are still finding ways to be artists in all of this,
Yeah.
which is definitely a great thing. Yeah. So I picked up this script a long time ago at the drama bookshop, and I read it train ride home. And
Catchy title.
saying, yeah. I mean, that was really it. And I remember saying, I was like, I really love to see this here in Philly. And at the time, I wasn't really thinking like, who else could do this? I was just saying like, I think it would be really great to do it here. And of course, Theater Exile would pick up a show like this. So yeah. So tell us about the motherfucker with the hat.
So the motherfucker with the hat is about these 5 people, 2 couples, and one of the couple, and a cousin of one of the protagonists. As they kind of negotiate recovery and poverty, and trying to hustle and stay above water, and kind of like recovery is a big sort of through line, and how they kind of struggle. I think the play is about becoming a better person, and sort of what that means, and everybody's journey is different. And so, the play starts with Jackie, played by Jay Hernandez, and I'm his sponsor, and he and his girlfriend, he has discovered a hat on the table in his girlfriend's apartment, and he becomes convinced that she's having an affair. He freaks out, and so he's very fragile, having recently gotten out of prison, and he's like trying to get his life together, and is desperately afraid of using, and so as his sort of tough love AA sponsor, and I don't want to get too much into it because it, like plot wise, I don't want to.
Yeah, you'll give it away.
Because there are pretty big, twists, to say the least. And as you sort of find out more and more about these characters' past and how they've interacted previously, or, and so, yeah, and it's I think the main character in the play is the extraordinary writing and dialogue that just crackles with really, very extreme profanity and imagery, but is really, really funny and audacious, and is, kind of staggering to witness, and a real satisfying experience to play with.
Yes. So I know that when I was reading it, I kept getting Veronica and Victoria confused.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, frankly. Because I will say, you can't go back to Victoria, meaning Veronica. It's like, what are you talking? Yeah, each of us has made that slip multiple times. It's a real minefield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your first impression of the piece when you read it?
I was blown away by it. It's the pacing, and it's it's really, really funny. It's both. These characters say awful things to each other,
mm-hmm.
and in very, very creative, profane ways. But it's really, really funny, and it's sort of like the profanity and the language becomes a kind of like, like a love language, a weird like code that they mm-hmm. kind of like, the things that hurt them the most, when they hurt each other the most, are things that are really simple and said without, a cathedral of fucks, and so, and I love that. And the characters are so vivid and surprising, and you think what what a person is thinking and doing, and then it's revealed that it's completely different, and and yet it doesn't, it's not inconsistent with who they are. It's just like, oh, that's a whole other side to this person that I didn't think about, and it's great.
Yeah.
So I guess the characters and the language.
I definitely, I was thinking, when you said love language, I'm thinking about how if someone is observing their relationship, either Jackie and Veronica, or your character Ralph D
Yeah.
and Victoria, on first glance they'd probably say, I don't know. How long have
Yeah,
they been together? Like,
you're
especially
right.
Jackie and Veronica,
Yeah,
kind of.
you'd be tempted to call the police.
Yeah.
The way it seems like they're about to kill each other at every turn, and they love each other desperately, but they go through these destructive cycles, and that's a big theme in the play too, is sort of breaking these cycles of self-sabotage and getting in your own way, and but yeah, it's extreme, particularly them. They the way they talk to each other is it's beyond the Bickersons. It's really something else.
Yeah. I was thinking about how, there are these layers of addiction that they all have in common.
Right.
And you have to view this through a particular lens, to kind of adjust to the goings on. And yes, I was surprised at how humorous it is. Like just the opening, the conversation between Jackie and Veronica, where it just seems like, oh, this is silly. They're being silly, and then there's like
Right.
and then like a real sentence will be said after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you go into the thing,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So right. They have this fight in which, like, they are just a hair away from real physical violence.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to get pie. Like, it's like those things happen in the same scene.
It also reminds me of kind of like I've heard arguments, scripted arguments and kind of real life arguments, where there's sort of this realization that that the two people in this argument are, fit each other's crazy in a sense.
Yeah.
So that, again, going back to somebody on the outside is going to say, I don't know how this has lasted as long as it has. But it's like, you don't.
But they've been together since they were 13. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with their past, to stay with someone that recognizes your past and your struggles, sort of allows for this chaotic nature to be sort of commonplace. Right.
Yeah.
In there. Let's talk about Ralph D. Like,
Okay.
where is Ralph D in all this? What were your thoughts about him, and tell us about him?
Yeah. He's and again he's involved in one of the bigger reveals. So I wanna be kind of careful about how not spoiling that, but he is incredibly attuned to what people want to hear when they want to hear it. He is sort of AA has become his sort of new addiction. Like, he's been sober for 15 years, and I think while he really does intend and want to help people with it, he uses the program sometimes to manipulate people and to kind of, he's always sort of subtly or not so subtly moving every interaction he has with people to his advantage. But he's also at the same time, like a lot of this stuff, like he also says and does a lot of things for these people that is very helpful to them and very, and empowers them. And, and so the sort of double layer of that was very intriguing to me, that like, sort of what I was referencing before of like, you think he's all this one thing, and then, things are revealed and you're like, what? Oh my gosh. I did not see this coming, And so, yeah.
Isn't it crazy to think about how these characters exist in those spaces? Like they show up in the same scenes, but they all have these secrets lying just below the surface, and thinking about how they are scripted to interact with each other, knowing that they have these, underlying information that we as an audience are not privy to yet. It's kind of, this is one of the pieces where I look back and I have so many thoughts in hindsight, whereas in the moment I'm just like, and I could almost, I'm thinking about past shows at Exile where like the audience knows what they're getting into, but at the same time, damn it, I didn't think theater throw me for a loop, and they did.
Yeah.
And continue to do that. And and I think it's always makes it kind of crazy to have a conversation when there is a big reveal in the story, which always makes this so hard. But like, take us into the rehearsal, the virtual rehearsal room. Take us into the process and tell us what that was like.
Yeah, that's, life. And although this was not, well, it was sort of COVID related, our director, Ozzie Jones, had a medical issue that I guess I should have asked him whether he wanted me to talk about this or not. So I'm going to be pretty vague about it. But the result of that, and the danger of Omicron and his perhaps being compromised, the decision was made because initially the intent was that he would be on Zoom for the first like 3 or 4 days, and then come in person. And it didn't work out that way. And he has been virtual the entire time and will be, because it has been deemed not safe for him to come and be in the room with us. And it's, he's a really dynamic and exciting kind of guy, and so that's been, we get some of that, but it's been hard to communicate and things that, just technically. And so Deb Block has sort of stepped in and is kind of assisting and is in the room. And, so we've all had to be very, everyone from, Ozzie to Deb to us, kind of like, it's been a lot of pivoting and a lot of like, okay, so we're going to have to figure out how to do this. But it's going really well. I think the cast is terrific, and Ozzie is, despite his situation, tireless and strong as a bull. And so, yeah.
Some of these, there are some elements of this story that clearly date the piece in a way, but it's still kind of present, but I think about everything like this. How would these characters handle in the middle of a pandemic? Could they do? I mean, would their crazy still be this elevated? You think, or
Yeah.
it feels like there are elements of what's going on right now that wouldn't allow for
Yeah.
some of the revelations to even exist without being a whole nother story.
Oh, you mean just technically like post could this story be told the same way?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And like, it's I've read a lot of stuff about, addiction has gotten worse with the shutdown, and you kind of hate to think about, Veronica and Jackie locked down. That would be, especially because Veronica uses, and Jackie's, that would be bad, I think, and yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, COVID will forever date everything. It's sort of like our lifetimes, I think, is going to be like before the virus and after it, just because it was such, obviously, this global, everybody went through the same thing at the same time. And so, but I mean, I feel like this place still feels very fresh and new because they don't really get too deep into, no, they don't talk about social media, even though, it was made, I mean, it was written in 2011 when, Facebook and Twitter were as big as ever. And, like, I think it was a deliberate choice. And so some of that, I think, makes it kind of evergreen, that it's like this can be pretty much any time, I mean, our modern, it's not dependent on cultural touchstones and technology and that kind of stuff, except for, a reference to the Commodores, but they'll always be awesome, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, with Broadway and the jukebox musicals, I think it kind of pulls that back into present day as well.
That's right. That's right.
There were moments that stood out, and there's a quick sort of a monologue that talks about there's a certain point in your life where your friends have been established, and then after that they're not. They're kind of like acquaintances. Do you believe that? Do you feel that?
No, I don't. I think, I disagree with that. There is some truth to the fact that you never have friends the same way as an adult that you do. Like, yeah, those people in your life from, like, high school and college, you have a bond with them that's different than the friends that you make later. But like, I made friends in my 20s and 30s that I'm way closer to than the friends I was with in college, in that moment. But there, that's comes at a very mercenary sort of point in the play from Ralph. That the speech to which he refers is one of my speeches, and it comes from a very harsh place of like, if you have one friend when you die, that's something that most people don't ever have, and I don't agree with that, but he's saying it, I think, I think he believes it. And it's a very sort of cutthroat way of looking at the world, particularly because he behaves like a friend all the time. And he, so yeah, that's that.
Because the language is so charged, it made me think from a production standpoint, like, I hope there's some sort of intimacy coordinator attached to this, because there's a lot of like tough moments. Like, is there any sort of like self-care that you all need to do to just kind of
We,
get back and realize that you're old friends and that you love
yeah,
each
yeah. We're very lucky to be working with Eli Lynn. They are our intimacy coordinator.
other? Oh, great.
And we've had a couple of sessions with them already. They're coming in tomorrow. Um, uh, and it's mostly like intimacy day tomorrow. Like the schedule has had to be flexible and move around. And so, yeah, because there's also, in addition to the intimacy, romantically, there's also violence, and there's a pretty big and nasty fight, in the where Jackie and Ralph really go at each other and hurt each other. So, right, there's all of that stuff that we're addressing as well.
Yeah. And speaking of that, there's that really great interaction with Jackie and Ralph when some of this is revealed, and it's just kind of like, this is real. This is real
Sure.
life.
Yeah.
Do you think it feels like, yes, this realization is unacceptable, but is it? Because later in life, here we are in 2022, we're having different conversations. We're being more honest and real about our thoughts and our feelings. Like, could they get past this? Could they get past,
Yeah.
at the end of this play, could these characters grow if Stephen wrote, another
Sure.
installment?
Yeah. I think it's so funny because while he has all of these harsh things to say, I think Ralph is a kind of really optimistic person, and I do believe, at least, it, I think that he would like that. Like, he would want that. It gets into, like, he is a little addicted to having people rely on him and need him and come to him in times of trouble, and so the more he can do that and be around that, the better. So, right, yeah, if he and Jackie were never friends again, I think he would hate it. I mean, that's one of the last things he says to him is, maybe after a little while, maybe after some time, maybe we can be friends. I'd like that.
What's this? Yeah.
I'd like that very much. And so,
do you believe that he is manipulative, or is he a realist?
yeah, I think there's a lot of both. I think, because it's true, like, a lot of what he says has it makes a lot of sense about self-destructive patterns of behavior and how to break them, and how to, and so he believes very strongly in that. I think he is a manipulative person, but I think in the moment when he's manipulating, when he's, he believes 100% in what he's saying, and he doesn't look at it as, I'm doing this to get what I want. I feel like it is, where he's calculating about, like when he says, I love you to a person, he means that in that moment, like, I want to be with you forever. He means that in that moment, even though his behavior, in the next moment would seem contrary, to that, I do.
Do you think, if you have a thought of deception, in your partner, do you think that there is some crafting of words that could change your mind in that? Or is your mind really, like, you're feeling that way for a reason, Because there are there are some there are some sort of gaslighting sort of elements
100%.
to what is being said in general, but at the same time it's sort of like I felt like the whole piece is about like hard truths, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you know what, that like we're not supposed to agree per se with any of what's going on, but there are some real hard truths here. And like you said, he believes, Ralph believes in what he's saying in the moment, but at the same time, he's still using the moment to his advantage, saying like, you're the one who needs to do work. I'm
Right.
just taking advantage of the fact that you still have work to do. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't see how this is my fault.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and even when it very clearly is his fault, he will quote unquote sort of in a very AA way, like using recovery language to describe his culpability and his accountability, but then kind of twist it around so that it's, well, but if you really think about it, this is your fault. And so yeah, I think what is different about Ralph is I think he never ever sees himself as anything other than the good guy, even when he does very, very underhanded and terrible things. Um, he still thinks he's the good guy. He's not capable of uh, of thinking he's bad. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think that's what's different between him and the other characters.
Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts on the character of Julio?
I think that cousin Julio is, and it's a wonder. This being played beautifully by this young actor Zach Valdez. I think cousin Julio is sort of like the moral compass of the play. He is the only character who is not only honest with everyone else and speaks the truth even when it's ugly and hard to hear. He's honest with himself. He's honest about his failings and about his. And so he's the like healthiest, most sort of morally clear-eyed and ethical person in the play.
Yeah. It feels like it sometimes feels like um, if you attended a seminar and you picked about 5 things as takeaways, and then they sort of carry them as like the new Bible, and just sort of carry them into the future, or like of self-care, or
Mm-hmm.
just trying to get past their issues. It felt like that in the moment. It's like, do they really believe this? Or are they convincing themselves that if they stick to this, if he sticks
Right.
to this diet, he sticks to these drinks, this is the pathway to being better. Uh,
Yeah.
and then looking at them as saying like, well, I know I've done this one thing that's not so great, but I'm doing these 5 things over here
Yep.
that are
Oh
good.
yeah.
So don't they cancel this one bad thing?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The Ralph's logic about all of that is a spectacle to see how he navigates all of this stuff. And um, yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
It's really fun because it's very, very audacious and extreme, and you can't you like you know I'm sure I mean, like, you read this play and your jaw drops. You're just like, and like, I think there's a lot of that. I think like there's going to be a lot of people like, he he couldn't have just said that. How does anyone's brain work that way?
Hmm.
That's that's amazing that
Yeah.
he's saying that with a straight face
It's
and
like,
like
I
full of
hear
conviction.
you,
Wow.
but
Right. Yeah.
It's like that's the thought, that's the logic you keep to yourself, not the logic you force upon someone.
Yeah.
It seems
No,
like.
that you would no. It's like no. You'd hate to, like he should be like a lawyer or something. Like he should, you know, like he should be litigating for sleazy businessmen because
Yeah.
he would be amazing at it.
Well, I know the Broadway run had a little bit of a tough time in terms of promotion because of the time frame, and we were, I guess, arguably a little bit more prude. I guess we didn't have, someone in the highest office speaking the way.
Yeah.
But now, is this a hard production to tell people you're a part of or to talk about?
Yeah. You just have to, yeah, like at church. But, but like, you have to be careful, but I think you're really onto something, that vulgarity has a different place in our culture now.
Mm-hmm.
That like, of course there's a piece of entertainment with the word motherfucker in the title, like, and so I do think people are a little, are much less, and it never appeared well, because I guess even, yeah, originally with the broad production, like even with letters blocked out, they wouldn't, there were certain publications that you know wouldn't review it or wouldn't run, run advertisements, that kind of thing. And I think they've run up against that at least once here at Exile. So yeah, it still happens, but I think, yeah, people are a little more jaundiced over what a word is.
Yeah. Well, if anyone can mount this production, I believe Exile can.
Yeah, I feel like this is exactly what their audience would expect them to do, and Deb, I know, has wanted to do it for years, and so yeah, it is. If there's such thing as a prototypical Exile show, this is definitely it.
Yeah. What is your takeaway from this production, this experience, and what do you think? What do you think an audience will take away from this?
Well, my takeaway has been a couple of different things because of the sort of crazy nature. I mean, because of the way we've had to be flexible and look out for each other and take care of each other. I mean, not just, I mean, we're testing regularly. There's strict COVID protocols about masks and all of that stuff. And because having it taken away from us so suddenly, there's an urgency. You always want something to be good. You always, you never, but like there's some times where you're in something and you're like, well, we gave it a shot, but like, that's not good enough now. We've had to work too hard to come back here, and we've had to, we have to work really, and we have to keep working really hard to take care of each other in ways that we never thought about. And so the urgency to make something that we can point to and say we're proud of, and that we can share with people, and that they can come here and feel safe and be challenged and laugh and think about the many things that we want plays to make people think about. I think there's just a greater urgency to be really good at it and really clear-eyed about why we're doing it.
Yeah, I think this piece, upon reading it, I haven't experienced a live production yet. I think the boxes these characters keep themselves in, fuel this frustration and wanting to be better. They want to be better, but having such a hard time letting go of the past.
Yeah.
And, I think that that's going to be like clearly displayed, when you enter into this space to experience this piece. I kept thinking about that the whole time, and I was just like, yes, like they I don't know if these characters can grow beyond this moment together. It's
Right.
like if the series were to end, they would have to say no to this. I mean,
Right.
they would have to, they can't continue. We're gonna, the future is all of them separately, not
Right.
but we don't know, we don't know necessarily, because there are too many examples of the patterns that they keep falling back into. So who knows?
Sure.
The motherfucker with the hat, if there was another piece written, it might be another article of clothing.
Right. Exactly.
Later on in the element. But
the motherfucker with the glasses. Yeah.
Yes. But Scott Greer, thank you for taking the time to come chat. The production is called The Motherfucker with the Hat. Get used to it. Get into it. It's at Theater Exile. It's a Philadelphia premiere, and it's directed by Ozzie Jones. And if you are listening to this now, you can get tickets. So you can go online, Theater Exile. That's Theater RE exile.org for tickets, and it's running through February. So Scott, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Darnell. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, man.
Yeah. It's been great chatting with you, and I'm looking forward to experiencing what I've already read.
Awesome. We look forward to seeing you. Distance. We look forward to seeing you 6 feet away.
And if you're thinking about it at all, these theaters are working hard to keep everybody safe. So if you're on the fence, like, there is no need to be. All the precautions are being taken. All you have to do is decide, like, when is the best time for you to come join us in these theaters. So yes.
Yeah, they're doing it at about 50% capacity, and there are these little pods, and so they're more than 6 feet apart. If you and you're, you can, and the way that they're selling it purposefully so that people who come together sit together and don't sit right next to a stranger. So yeah, they're working really hard to do that.
Great. All right, Scott Greer, the motherfucker with the hat. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Take care.
Want to get involved with Broad Street Review? Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Donate to find out how. Connect with us on social media, on Facebook and Twitter at BroadST Review. Thank you for helping to keep the conversation going.